Hello. In this video, I'll explain why my rate is $180 per hour and how I got there. I'll go over which languages I have learned in programming and which skills have helped to justify that rate. Lastly, I'll go over the exact pitch I use to tell clients and convince them that paying me $180 per hour is the best investment they can make in their business. Side note, I've been working virtual office for the last 20 years. Let's get started. First, a little history. When I started my career as a freelance software developer, I billed $40 an hour. I chose that rate because I had just left an $80,000 a year salary job where I was senior technical engineer. I worked solo for a few years and then I started hiring a few other programmers and I formed the Programming Labs company, software development. That went great and slowly grew, and as my skills increased, I increased my rates up to $180 an hour in 2013. In 2015, I closed the company and I became Chief Technology Officer for one of my clients. Well, last November 2020, I quit the Chief Technology Officer job. I decided to restart Programming Labs and I decided to keep my rate at $180 an hour. Programming language progression. I'm going to skip the earliest languages I learned when I was very young because they really didn't apply to my hourly rate progression, and frankly I don't even remember most of the names. What was it? Omnibus, Omnipro, Voltron, I don't know. What I started using when I went freelance for money was Clarion and HTML. Clarion is a fantastic Windows platform language that builds Windows executables for working with databases. It works with several different backends, and I ended up using it for Microsoft SQL. I ended up getting a client that wanted me to do websites, and I knew the future was in websites, for HTML and ASP. So then I got into ASP using MS SQL, and I found out that it was Clarion ASP, where the Clarion Windows executable would generate ASP code. I used that for a while, and then I ended up making my own Quickstep library, which was a ASP code library that generated ASP that was data driven. That worked out very well, and I eventually ported that over to PHP because I had some clients that we did PHP and MySQL and PostgreSQL. So over the years, it was 2009 that I started the Quickstep library. I continually enhanced the Quickstep library and evolved it to keep up with modern technology. This worked very well. It made me very efficient and fast at doing development of data-driven websites, which allowed me to raise my rates. Now, in January of this year, 2021, I decided to take a break and just focus on revamping that library. I renamed it to the Wizard's Toolkit, and I changed it from ADO to PDO, increased in security, and added a huge number of enhancements. And that's one of the things that makes me very effective and very fast at developing websites and now mobile apps as well. My knowledge and skills. I'm a full stack developer, and although I know a lot of different languages, really the only ones that matter on a weekly basis is PHP, SQL, JavaScript, CSS, and of course HTML5. I'm also very stickler to coding standards and naming conventions, which I think makes me a stronger programmer. And I'm a master tool use. I like writing macros that make me write code faster, and it's bug-free, has perfect syntax, and automates the comments. For non-coding things that I do, which help improve my hourly rate, I understand project management very well. In fact, I wrote a whole video about project management. You might want to check it out. And I got business analyst skills because I've studied business, entrepreneurship, and analytics, and that's one of my personal passions. Of course, the thing that helps me the most with my hourly rate is probably the use of the Wizard's Toolkit. It allows me to write better code faster than other developers, and has a wonderful GUI already built in, as well as all the analytics and the audit logging, so that I can develop things very quickly that are very professional. How I determine my billable rate. Billable rates should be based on several different factors. The breadth of knowledge, the depth and expertise of knowledge, what the other experts in that field are charging for an hourly rate, the quality of your code. Do you have good coding standards and naming conventions? Do you write bug-free code? Is your commenting good? Then, of course, how fast and efficient can you develop bug-free code? So, as I slowly increased my skills and got new clients, I would evaluate, and every time I felt like I had leveled up, I would then increase my rate to new clients. For old clients, I would notify them, hey, in 6 months on January 1st or August 1st or whatever, I would be increasing my rate. Of course, I did have one special client. Their budget was so large that they were basically giving me enough money to pay 3 or 4 full-time programmers. So I kept my rate at 120 even when I raised it for everybody else. By the way, I also sometimes would evaluate my own programmers. I had a bunch of PHP and SQL programmers working for me at programming labs. And so every once in a while I would assign them a task, and then I would also do the task. Like when I was at $120 an hour and I gave them a project, if I could do the project in 1 hour and it took them 2 hours to do the project, they should be billed at $60 an hour. If they took 3 hours to do the project that I did in 1 hour, then their billable rate to clients should be $40 an hour. So that was one of the ways that I would evaluate their billable rate. And of course, several times a year I would give workshops to help my developers improve their skills. And once they improved their skills and got their speed up and delivered bug-free code, then I would raise their rates as well. Blended rates at programming labs. Although I based my staff's rates partly on the comparison of how fast could they do an interesting project compared to how fast could I do it, there were some tasks that it didn't matter what the skill level was, they could do it equally fast to me, such as a simple SQL import. Frankly, the time it takes them to do it versus the time it takes me to do it, there's a very little difference, in which case I would assign those types of tasks to whichever staff could do it for the least cost to the client. Often the clients would create a new project where there would be, okay, we need a particular type of page built and we need 40 of these pages. In which case what I would do is I would prototype the first one and then I would optimize it and optimize the methodology and maybe even make some tools to make building the pages faster and easier. And then I would train one of my staff to then use those tools and that methodology to build all the rest of the pages. This gave the client the best of both worlds. They get somebody with a whole lot of experience and technology background to optimize and perfect the prototype, and then they would get the blended rate because somebody with a much lower hourly rate would then do the grunt work of repeating that process over and over and over again for all the other pages. That was my job as project management, was to optimize the methodology of finishing a project and give it to whichever staff would save the client the most amount of money, yet get the project done effectively. My current rate and status. Even though it's been 8 years since my rate was $180 an hour, I've chosen not to increase my rate at this time. Partly because I'm not actively looking for clients. Instead, I'm focusing all my time and energy on building software as a service built on the Wizards Toolkit. I'm working on landing pages as the services right now. And after that, I want to finish the Wizards Toolkit so that I can offer it as a commercial product for other PHP and SQL developers to enhance their skills. Of course, that being said, I wouldn't turn away any clients if they approached me. I do have 4 programmers that are working for me, and they would love to have some client billable work. Of course, their rates are a lot lower than mine are. So if a client approached me, I would do the project management and all the high level stuff, and then I would pass everything else off to my programmers, which would give the client a blended rate and save them a lot of money. This is the pitch I use to convince clients to hire me at $180 an hour. When you're hiring me, you're also hiring programming labs. We have several different developers of different levels of skill and experience and hourly rates in different areas of expertise. So I've been doing software development and programming and project management for over 20 years. I'll work with you very closely so that we can define exactly what the technology needs are to meet your business goals and projects. And then I'll write the functionals. Once you approve the functionals, I write the technicals, and I assign them to the staff that can do it for the least amount of cost to you. This gives you a blended rate and saves a lot of money. Most of our clients are very happy with the blended rate methodology because it gives them access to the gurus at the high rates when necessary, but all the easy projects are done at a much lower rate. I'd like to set up a time. Normally my hourly rate is $180 an hour, but let's set up a time off the clock when you can tell me more about your business. Tell me about your goals and what the plan is, both short-term and long-term, for your business needs. I bet by the end of that conversation, I can outline 1 or 2 small projects, not the big one that's going to take years maybe or months, but a small little project that is a step towards your ultimate goals that we can build as programming labs, and that way you can see how we work. You'll see how fast and efficiently we can get your projects done. We have weekly deliverables, and if at any time you're not happy with the speed or the final product, you just fire us and we part friends, no problem. Usually that's all that needs to be said, and we end up getting the first project. If not, the goal is to have that first deep conversation where you can explain that you understand the business analytics, you understand what their business needs are, you can give some input on similar companies that you worked for, and you can build some rapport with the person. And then you can outline a project that's small that you can then prove yourself as a company. If they say no at that point, then you say, okay, look, how about this for an idea? Let's just have a short conversation. I'll outline a couple of ideas on a technology level, and if you like them, we can do it. And if you don't like them, well, maybe you can talk to them, talk to other developers about them, and have somebody else do something similar. No cost, no obligation, no commitment, but let's have that detailed business analytic talk. This is a great way to close the deal. And when they realize that they're not paying $180 an hour for the entire project to be done, no, they're paying that for project management and high-level stuff, but the low-level stuff is being done at a much lower rate. That makes it much more feasible and cost-effective for them. Lastly, let me give you a tip on how to keep high-paying clients really happy. Programming gifts for clients. There's some things that you can give a client that nobody else can. Every year for each of my clients, I give them a surprise gift. It will be like a report or analytic chart or graph or a widget that gives them some new insights into their business and data. And it usually doesn't take me more than 2 to 4 hours to do, and sometimes I'll showcase some brand new technology that I've discovered over the last year. They always are very surprised and excited and happy about this, and sometimes it even leads to new business. The gratitude's great, and sometimes they say, wow, this widget that you just developed that shows me how many new XYZ, whether that be users or registrations or whatever, that I received since midnight last night, as a new widget that I can see on my dashboard is really cool. Can you make me a similar one for the last week or the last month? And then that becomes cha-ching, billable work. So if you do this once per year, it will strengthen the relationship you have with your client, and it will allow them to see whatever new technologies you're excited about. It is just a win-win. In summary, my $180 hourly rate is just fine because 1, breadth of knowledge. I got project management skills, business analyst skills, and a broad technology knowledge specializing in API integration. 2, full stack developer, primary skills being PHP, SQL, and JavaScript, secondary skills being CSS3, HTML5, and materialized CSS. And 3, fast, efficient, quality coding. I use very strict coding standards and naming conventions. I use the Wizards Toolkit, which allows me to do data-driven, responsive design websites and mobile apps extremely fast and very easy, so that I can beat out most of the competition of other developers. And 3, I really like using macros. So I become a master of making my own macros so that I write very fast, efficient coding that has perfect syntax with no bugs in it. So that's my summary, and like if this has helped, subscribe for more on the business of programming, and you might want to check out some of my other videos like coding standards and naming conventions, or project management, or how to negotiate higher pay, or how to negotiate working remotely. Down below in the links, you'll also find the link to the wizardstoolkit.com website, where you can become an early adopter, and maybe you can get a higher billable rate too. Have a great day. Subscribe for more on the business of programming.